Hello again. Welcome to Towson University alumni, students, faculty, staff, and friends. I am Jenna Mills, the Director of Alumni Engagement Programs and a proud 2009 and 2016 graduate of Towson University. Thank you for joining us today for the TU Alumni Artist Panel. I promise you, like I said earlier, you are in for a real treat today. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're so glad to have you with us today. Joining me from our team to help with this presentation is Steve Rosenfeld, Director of Alumni Communication and Recognition. Today we have alumni from 1977 the whole way to 2020, and even some of our soon-to-be newest Tiger grads joining us. Before I introduce today's moderator, I just want to share a few housekeeping notes. This session is now being recorded, and we will share it with all event registrants when it is finalized. It does take a few weeks to add some closed captions, so please be patient with us. I promise I will email it to all registrants. Attendees will remain muted throughout this discussion, but we do want to hear from you. So if you've got questions or comments throughout the session, please go ahead and use the chat function in your window and direct your questions or comments to all attendees. We will monitor the questions throughout the session, and our panelists can answer questions at the end of the presentation. I'd now like to introduce today's moderator, Sydney Pink. Sydney received his Master of Fine Arts from Towson University Department of Art and Design in 2018. He has been teaching and creating art for over 20 years and has shown his work in New York, Tokyo, Berlin, and Amsterdam. He is currently a member of our Towson University Career Center staff, connecting College of Fine Arts and Communication students with internships, jobs, and experimental opportunities. So any alumni out there who are interested in connecting with some of our students, Sydney is the person to reach out to today. Sydney, I can't thank you enough for leading today's panel. Like I said before, I'm very excited to hear from these artists today and also to hear your input on some of the discussion topics.
Thank you, Jenna and Stephen. Thank you for coordinating this. I'm also excited about this conversation today. I'd like to thank our panelists for joining us. And before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to introduce each of our guests. And you might even get a little surprise performance from a couple of our guests. So the first guest I'd like to introduce is Shireen Mahmed. Graduated from TU in 2015 with a degree in sociology and anthropology. She is a multi-talented actress currently starring as Eliza Doolittle in the first national tour of My Fair Lady. She has been recognized as the first woman of color in history to portray Eliza Doolittle on Broadway and the West End. Recently, she has been recognized as one of the 40 under 40 people of influence in the United States by the Arab American Foundation. I'm going to pass it over to Shireen, and I think we're going to get a little mini performance at this time.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shireen Ahmed. I'm so happy to be here. I know it's a little bit different. It's virtual, but I am so happy to connect with you all. I wanted to share with you a song that I had the privilege of performing 8 times a week on tour before COVID shut us down. Hopefully we will be back. But I wanted to sing a little snippet of I Could Have Danced All Night for you. So I hope you enjoy. Bed, I couldn't go to bed. My head's too light to try to set it down. Sleep, I couldn't sleep tonight. Not for all the jewels in the crown. I could have danced all night. I could have danced all night and still have begged for more. I could have spread my wings and done 1,000 things I've never done before. I'll never know what made it so exciting. Why all at once my heart took flight. I only know when he began to dance with me, I could have done some all night. Thank you all.
Wow, thank you. It's going to be hard to follow that up. Our next panelist is Ian Delknap. Ian is a 2006 graduate and currently serves as the artistic director for the Acting Company. His work explores questions about the asymmetries of history and is inspired by the novels and nonfiction and the plays of William Shakespeare. The New York Times has called his work a stroke of curatorial inspiration. I believe Ian's going to just tell us a little bit more about his work.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, and what an amazing performance. I'm just so thrilled and honored to be on this panel today. I run an itinerant theater company based in New York City that is dedicated to the development of the emerging actor, so an actor who's recently out of drama school. And we take work that's often paired in rotating repertory that thematically connects time and place, often from an ancient period of time into a modern period of time. So sometimes we're curating new plays with old plays and rotating repertory that have a thematic echo between them. And I'm really interested, as you read in my bio, about looking at the asymmetries of people and places and events, and especially people that have often been marginalized. So that's the work I do. I've been at the theater since 2008, so and I feel really lucky to be making the theater as part of my professional career.
Thank you, Ian. And our final panelist is Darius Christian. Darius is a 2011 TU grad. He is a musician and model whose talent has been in high demand since graduating. As a genre-bending trombonist, he's performed alongside some of today's most prominent artists, including Macklemore, Adele, Rihanna, Macy Gray, and Andy Grammer. Welcome, Darius. I believe we're going to get another little performance.
Pleasure to be here. Can you hear me okay? The sentiment is feeling good in 2021, y'all. Feeling good. I got peace of mind. Feeling good. Whoa.
Thank you, Darius. Thank you, all of our guests. This is a great way to start. So let's jump into some questions and conversation. Why don't we start by just going in the order that I just introduced you to start, but then we can just allow the conversation to evolve fluidly. So Shireen, we'll start with you. What did you study at TU, and how did your art grow while you were in college?
Hi, so I went to Towson University. I got my degree in criminal justice. However, I was always in the fine arts department, always trying to take those not free courses, but the courses that were offered to students, like Acting 101, Theater for Social Change. I was, taking voice lessons. I was really taking advantage of the incredible art that was around me, even though I was studying in a different degree. So yeah, you know, I was really, really involved at Towson, and I was also really involved in the community. You know, I was doing community theater. I was going back and forth from New York to Baltimore to audition. So you know, I tried to stay involved as much as I could.
Thank you. And Ian?
Yeah, I have a degree in theater, and I was so lucky. You know, I too benefited from, I guess, the liberal arts education, both inside of the theater department, but also across the entire university. As I was so stimulated by the theater courses, I guess one of the ways I've changed is when I showed up, like so many, I grew up in the American musical theater, you know, as a kid and performing in high school, and really my attention was redirected at Towson to directing. So I would say it was a huge sort of shift about two years into my time, and a big part of that, beyond the theater courses, just which were all wonderful, was human regional geography, literature courses. I took a sort of mind-blowing comparative literature course when I was at the university. And that really, I carry those things with me in my professional career as much as I do the learning from the theater department. So all around, it was a great time.
Thank you, Ian. And Darius?
Such a pleasure to be here with everyone. Can you hear me okay? Getting these levels set up here from the performance. Ooh, got a little delay there. Anyways, yeah, I mean, being at Towson was such a ridiculously wonderful experience for me back in, I think I graduated in 2011 or so. And moving out into the real world, I felt ridiculously prepared to jump in and dive in because of the instruction that was there and the teachers. So I'll just keep it short. I'm just super, super happy to be here and looking forward to getting into this discussion further.
Great, thank you, everyone. So I'm interested in what was your path to TU, and also you can add on to that, there's a moment during your college career that helped shape you as an artist that you are today.
Yeah, you know, so my mother went to Towson, and she said she had an incredible time there, and I live about 20 minutes from Towson University, so it was kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Towson University, of course. So I applied. It was amazing. Of course, I graduated with the criminal justice degree, and I noticed that, you know, in musical theater, when you're on stage, really the whole purpose of being an actor is to perform life on stage, right? So when I was studying criminal justice, I had opportunities that I wouldn't have been able to have if I were just studying strict musical theater or theater. And so, you know, I had an incredible opportunity to intern at the mental health court in Baltimore. I got to listen to stories of inmates and the choices that they had to make. And once I graduated, once I started diving into telling stories and becoming a storyteller, I was able to use those stories and the people and the conversations that I had with these incredible people and hone that into my art. So I always tell people, I'm always saying, if you're interested in pursuing art, you have to live your life and you have to be open to all of the opportunities that are around you. And Towson was really, you know, the catalyst for me for that.
I guess I'll go next. I grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, so a long way away from Towson, and a theater teacher in high school knew a faculty member at Towson, Peter Ray. So the short answer is I came to study with Peter. So And then once I came to study theater, it just, I would say in terms of what turned me into a director, it was the confluence of, there was a really, I think it was 3 or 4 semesters of theater history. So we were, looking at theater from so many different perspectives. And right around that time, I knew I wanted to tell a lot of different stories. I wanted to participate in, there's a real danger in just telling a single story. And I benefited from, just curriculum that was structured that we, were looking at Susan Laurie Parks or Maria Irene Fornes against Shakespeare. It could be in another class. And then, I spent most of my time holed up at the Cook Library, the old library, and just sort of read adjacently around those topics. So I wouldn't say there was one moment. It was really just, my mind sort of opened up and I started thinking. And that I just owe everything to Towson for.
And just to chime in based on that thinking, I found my way to Towson after looking at numerous schools, from the East Coast, schools in, Penn State. But when I went to Towson's campus and interacted with the teachers there, I felt a deep sense of community that felt very genuine and sincere. And especially within the arts department, it was a very tangible sense of we are stronger together. And the rigor involved with the university was also very inspiring for me. It wasn't just like, come here, get a music degree. We're not going to really hold you accountable. It was, come here. It's going to be tough, but we're going to do this together. So that's how I found my way into Towson's world.
That's awesome. So I'm curious about, after your experience here at Towson, what were the first 2 or 3 things you did after graduating? What was that like right after graduation, and what had an impact on the next steps in your career? We'll start with Shireen, and I'm definitely interested in what was your thinking in terms of when you decided to make the jump to Broadway. How did you make that decision? What did that look like? And anything else you want to add?
Yeah, so performing has always been my passion. And looking back now, I realized that what drew me into the criminal justice degree was the stories that I was able to learn from and listen to. But after I graduated, I decided that I have to see where this is. I have to see what I can do with the passion that I have in my heart and my soul that I've had forever since I was a kid. So I went up to New York, and I really leaned on the community. I mean, there were some Towson students up there. There were also people in the community theater groups that I was a part of. And I met a lot of great people in New York. And, you're sitting there in a cattle call with 300 plus other women, and you're bound to make friends. So these little steps of being able to connect with new people, make new friends, and kind of learn from one another. I'm a big supporter in the thinking that there are teachers all around you. And so I was just like a sponge. Every studio I walked into, every teacher I was learning from, every actor that I came into contact with, every audition I was in, I took advantage of the opportunity to learn. And, what I like to remind people is that when you first start auditioning, you'll be really bad at auditioning, but you have to be bad at auditioning to be able to start getting good at auditioning and start to understand what is your niche, what do you bring to the table. So, having conversations with a lot of people and connecting with a lot of people is really how I started to put in place the steps to get to where I wanted to be. And then thankfully, I was able to do a few gigs on a cruise ship, and then My Fair Lady came into my life. So yeah, lean on one another. There are teachers all around you, and take advantage of every opportunity, because there's always an opportunity everywhere.
Yeah, and I guess I can echo that. In the sense, well, I should start and say, I had a really, I didn't really know what to do when I graduated. I mean, your whole world since you were a little kid is organized around going to school. So, that first fall comes around, and especially when you're, going into an artistic field, it's not like you go and all the banks are lined up and you have interviews at which bank or something you're going to work at. I don't know if that's how that works, but you sort of, I was a little bit at sea for a while. And then, but the part that I can echo is that, I had they used to produce these old books, Directors on Directing, the Theater Communications Group did. And I happened to be carting around one of those, and I just started reading it one day. And then one of the directors was also directing at Center Stage. And I wrote a letter to the theater saying, if there was like an unpaid assistantship, or I'd sit in the back of the theater and watch and observe. And I was so lucky and fortunate that that Gavin Witt, who was the dramaturg at Center Stage at the time, wrote back and said, yeah, Mark Lamos would love for an assistant. So that just I met Mark, and that eventually led to more opportunities.
Yeah, well, I'll hop in here. After leaving school, I think the biggest thing that started to allow for progress in my career was just showing up. I was the guy that would show up to my friends' gigs or professors' events, any recital. I mean, even at Towson, I was at any recital that I could possibly attend, because I mean, I know we were paying it, but to go and see performers who were coming from all over the world, to see heavyweight New York musicians show up and perform at Towson, I basically carried that sort of energy of like, let me be a sponge, like Shireen said, like just be present. And one thing that still translates to this day is showing up for other people, saying, like obviously building your skill set, getting it down to as close of a precise T as you can. We're always learning and growing, but just making yourself available, asking other people, hey, like, what can I do for you? How can I help your project? Is my random trombone sound useful for your pop project? Well, sure, let's use it. So things like that. And slowly things start to snowball. And, second you're working at the Blue Note Jazz Club in the gift shop, and then the next second you're playing there a couple months later, and it's all from these tiny little steps. So yeah.
I just kind of want to add on to what Darius was saying. I think at the heart of what we do is in service of others, and that is something that has always been a part, of how I perform and how I want to give to an audience. But especially right now during a pandemic, where really what we do is so important in staying connected with each other. We're isolated, and through art we can stay connected. I think always keeping that in mind, that I am here in service of, so what can I bring, what can I give to this art form, to my craft, to my peer that I'm on stage with, to a musician. It's just, we're a community. And I think now, especially during the pandemic, it's so much easier to reach out. Everyone's in the same position, everyone's experiencing the same thing. So it's so much more easier to just reach out and say, hey, how can I help you? And I want to help you keep doing the amazing work that you're doing.
Yeah, Shireen, that's awesome. I know that when we spoke earlier in preparation for this event, all of you talked about being in service of things that are bigger than yourself, both the craft, the art, and also community at large. So if each of you want to speak to that, that would be great, both in terms of like I said, craft art in general, but also the community or at large. So anybody that wants to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that Shireen mentioned. I feel like all of us are sort of independent or started independently. I never had like a music agent. And I think that mentality can be the biggest blessing or curse if you stay like in a selfish mindset. But if you are independently operating and trying to expand your community, I think that's just the most important thing that you can do as an artist. Because realistically, say you are I don't know, professional actor, you can't do a show without a lighting department, or foremost, the writers or the directors, or you might need a casting network of some sort to, you know, I'm trying to just think outside the box here, but once you realize like everything works when people are on a really great team, you can do so much more. And that's just, yeah, I'm very eager to you know, hear what you guys think about that sort of sentiment.
Well, I think that, you know, to take the Hamlet adage, you know, that will hold a mirror up to nature and reflect it. I mean, that's something, you know, it's probably quoted too often, but, you know, I think about a lot. And I think one of the things at this place in my career as an artist, like 12 or 13 years in, is how can like I take up less space to make space for other people. You know, it's no you know, secret that a lot of people that have looked like me and have had experiences like me have had, you know, more opportunity to be in the limelight. And so that's sort of what I meant earlier, that you know, I think the theater, I'll really only speak about the discipline I'm in, is what's so amazing about it is it's existed for you know, centuries and centuries and centuries, and it has the possibility to tell everyone's story. I mean, to me, it's at the heart of what democracy is. And I think one of the things in the American theater we're you know, been discussing really seriously during the pandemic is how can the theater tell more stories? How can we you know, promote empathy for other people? How can we disrupt stereotypes? How you know, how can we just make it a more universal experience? So you know, I know for me personally, that starts with a lot of introspection. You know, the stories that you may want to tell personally may not be the same stories that are right to tell for the theater or the theater that you're programming. So, you know, or they may be the right stories. So, you know, but for me, it's all about how can we tell stories from different points of view that also, you know, show our shared humanity and show, you know, the experience of being a human.
Anything anybody wants to add to the conversation? Let's jump in.
I was just reading the chat and I'm so sad. I think Corinne, I think she's leaving. She left already, but she spoke about how scary it is right now to be an acting or an artist during a pandemic, right? Which, yes, I understand. However, there is such an incredible opportunity right now to collaborate and lean on one another. And this is kind of what I was saying before. Bart Shear, who I worked with in My Fair Lady on Broadway and on tour, has this incredible, he starts his readings the first day of rehearsal saying, I do not believe in singular genius. I believe in collective genius. So although I am the director, this is a collaboration. And it's kind of echoes what we're doing right now in the pandemic, just trying to survive this thing. We have to lean on each other to survive this thing, right? And I've been thinking a lot about how Broadway will reopen, how the industry in general will reopen. And we have an amazing opportunity and access to our audience like we have never, ever, ever had before. Because we all will be sitting in those seats at one point when we do come back and have experienced the same collective trauma of 2020 and the pandemic. So how will we service them? And so, Corinne, I say to you, this is like, there are amazing conversations in the theater community right now, in the entertainment industry, like Ian was talking about trying to broaden and expand stories and expand storytelling. And what does it mean to be a storyteller today, now in 2021? My gosh. So I'd say reach out and see what you bring to the table. What do you bring to this art form? Because it's kind of an amazing opportunity to just restart our industry and start fresh and start new and start right.
That's awesome. Thank you. So I'm curious if you could, for the students in our space, but also I think some of the lessons learned apply to people in any field, both merging in their field or making a transition. Can you talk about how did you get your foot in the door, and specifically what were one of the hardest moments or experiences you faced, and how did you overcome it?
I'll go first. Okay, I believe, can you repeat that first part of your question? Because I think it was a two-parter.
Yeah, it was how did you get your foot in the door, and either separate or related to that, what was one of the hardest moments or experiences you faced, and how did you overcome it?
Okay, so how I got my foot in the door, I mean, I kind of stumbled into what I'm doing now. If you've seen My Fair Lady, if you understand, if you know the story of My Fair Lady, it's eerily similar to how I came onto Broadway in that world. I crashed an open call, and it was an open call for the role of Mrs. Pierce, which is the matron maid, and there was no one in the room, and I took advantage of an opportunity to be seen by a very big casting company, Telsey. So I took advantage of the opportunity to connect and make new connections, not necessarily to book a Broadway show. I mean, that was completely out of my scope. Like that wasn't an option. So I made the connection, I got a call back, and then I was able to make my Broadway debut. But I say this because it's those, and I think I've said opportunity maybe 16 times now, but take advantage of those opportunities. No one was in the room. I could have gone to a cafe and been like, I already did my audition. I was actually on my way to do another audition. I kind of pivoted and went to this audition instead. But take advantage of those opportunities. I'll let someone else speak.
I would just say that everyone was you once, I guess what I mean is no matter how, how far their career has gone, at one point or another, they were starting out. And it sounds so simple, but whether, I said writing a letter earlier, which dates me, but whether it's taking an opportunity to step into a room in an audition, or it's go to a reading, or it's just showing up. I mean, I think some of it, as Darius was saying earlier, find out who is what's the type of art you want to be, who is doing it, and seek out the people that are doing it. And in my experience, people are really generous largely with their time and really want to help. I mean, I think there's sort of at least in my experience, a misconceived idea that everything's so cutthroat and people don't want to help out people. And that I don't think is largely true. I'm sure there are areas of our field where that might be true. So I think, put yourself out there and see what happens.
I mean, 1,000%. it's that fear. And truth be told, I have a little, being on this panel, talking with you, legends, young legends in the making, I feel that same fear that I feel anytime I approach an opportunity. And that fear is a really good thing. It's a really good thing. It's a fire. So anytime, I encourage anybody, if you feel compelled to get into a world, if you're passing by a rehearsal room, like I was in undergrad studying with Dave Ballou, Jim McFalls, some incredible instrumental educators, not even just like music. These guys are talking life, improvisation, how you can incorporate that into your day-to-day life. But I would pass by some theater rehearsals and sort of like, oh, that's really cool. They're singing together, or they're singing in German or something. And somehow I found my way like auditioning for a production that Dr. Philip Collister was running, and ended up making it in. And without even realizing it, like taking that risk totally changed my career, because when I came out of school, I had experienced traveling to Germany, doing a production with Germans in German, playing my instrument, singing, which is something I always wanted to do, but was afraid of. And like getting that momentum leaving school, I was like, well, maybe I'll sing songs and release them. And maybe I'll put something on YouTube, or maybe and that process has just maintained the same sort of, I haven't changed that process of running towards the fear. And trust me, the fear is real. It hasn't gone away. Like the anxiety can be so crippling, but if you just continue to show up and meet that fear, you'd be surprised what that fear turns into. It's kind of like it melts into like a vegan cake or a vegan donut that you might eat too many of. So I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, just running towards the fear.
And Darius, I until you started saying that, I did the same thing. I had one of my best friends at Towson was in the dance department, Tony Bird, and there used to be a building. I think it's gone now, and there was a dance studio in there. And then someone played trumpet, and he choreographed. And I was studying with Naoko in the theater department. We were learning a lot about Japanese dance and theater. And then I was trying to like choreograph. I didn't know how to dance to music. And some of those things, those added benefits beyond the class curriculum and spending time in an artistic community and just stepping outside of myself, saying, well, you know what, I'm not actually so interested in directing Tennessee Williams plays. I'm a little more interested in this. And while I don't necessarily do that direct thing for a living, you have to, go past yourself in a way in order to come back around. And the other thing about the anxiety, I mean, I feel it all the time. But the one thing that I guess is its touchstone to me is that once you decide you're an artist, you're an artist, and nothing that ever happens will ever, it'll always be inside of you, and that's your creativity. And you can be creative in a pandemic and decide to write stories. You can do this, that, or the other. And that's the other thing maybe I'd offer today is like nothing's permanent. I mean, I just remember that feeling at school, like, oh, if I start directing realistic plays, I'll only ever do realism or whatever crazy idea I had in my head. And I think there's a lot more fluid, it can be more fluid than that. And I'm finding even as I grow older and as I approach, 40, which I can't believe I'm about to say, is I actually feel like I'm listening to how I want to transition as an artist or grow as an artist. And it connects back to those moments in those studios of like trying different things at Towson. So if any of that makes sense.
I love what you two are talking about. I'm hearing so much great things that are just sparking so many thoughts for me. Ian, yes, we are still artists. We are all still artists, even though, I'm not on stage 8 times a week. I'm not working right now, but I am still an artist in my bedroom. And Darius, what you had to say about fear, I absolutely love. There's this image that comes to mind of here's your comfort zone, here's fear, and right in the middle is where the magic happens. And I always, I still get nervous. I'm doing some concerts performing for you. I still get those little nervous butterflies. Before I go on stage, I get nervous. But fear is a practice, and stepping into those nerves is a practice. And if you get really good at practicing being nervous, you can do anything. You're unstoppable. And once I started to shift my mind in that way of like, okay, I'm nervous to reach out to this person. He's out of my, this director's out of my league, but I'm still going to reach out and practice. This is a practice. It takes the pressure off a little bit, because it's like, oh, I'm just practicing at reaching out. And so the fear all of a sudden is gone, and that nervous energy turns into excitement, because really physically, nervous energy is the same as excitement. It's exciting energy. So I'm all for brain hacks. I love the conversations that are happening right now, and practice being nervous.
I mean,
So-
I don't want to drop this mic, but that that's a mic drop. That's a mic drop.
Totally.
Something that I feel is related to the conversation we're already having is the impact of COVID-19, obviously on everybody, but as it related to the arts, to your practices. And I'm curious if you want to just briefly speak about shifts that you made, but maybe more than that, what are your thoughts and hope for the future? What are maybe lessons learned or things that we're going to take past the pandemic into our practices?
I'll go on the first part of that question. I mean, I've always tried to write. And I decided, during COVID, well, maybe this is an opportunity where I can try to start to write. So I've been just taking and writing is so connected to reading for me, and predominantly novels. So, in the evenings after my daughter goes to bed and life settles down a little bit, I try to read for a half an hour, and then I've just been trying to write and talking about stepping into fear. I sometimes don't even know where a comma goes, let alone how to try to write a story. So I've just taken what I do know about storytelling and meeting that with the reading I'm doing to just try to write. And I have no goal for it. I'm not like, oh, if I write this by the end of the pandemic, I'll send it around or something. I probably will never do that, but I'm just doing it to have a creative output right now. So that's one thing, I guess, away from my job. In terms of the job, we've been producing a lot of I guess you'd call it hybrid theater, virtual theater that's online. So I've been working on, some of it's been in radio. So I've been trying to test out other forms and other mediums, working on a radio piece of Zora Neale Hurston's Our Eyes Were Watching God, which was a really seminal novel written in the 1930s that's going to be directed by this amazing Patricia Kumper is her name, who lives in England but's from Jamaica and has written this amazing adaptation of Their Eyes Were Watching God. So I've done a little bit of both, but I've tried to expand in different ways, and just instead of being frustrated to say I can't do this in a live theater, how are ways where we could push the form or experiment and again step out of the box of convention and try to do something different.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many takeaways, right? Like, up until there was a certain point leading to the pandemic where I was living on a tour bus or an airplane. I was spending majority of my time on a tour bus or an airplane. And then I'd be on the stage for a little bit, and then I'd be back on the bus and the airplane. And by all means, great opportunities. You spend your whole life thinking like, I'm going to tour the world and play for audiences of 50,000 at once. And it's great. It's a great experience. But then you start to think, well, I'm a hired gun for this job, and it's great. It's nice work if you can get it. But then you start to think, I'm very expendable. Okay, if my ankle goes, or finger, or I don't know, I get a cold, I'm in Austria right now, and what am I going to do? Literally. So it kind of got to this point where I had hit this milestone of like TV, blah, 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 these great opportunities, but I felt a lacking that a space was opening where it was like, hey man, you need to be in one place working on your truth, your story, not necessarily your story and just your me, I'm an artist, look at me, but like, how are you facilitating original content for people that they can bite into and latch onto for years to come? Not just, putting a melody on a trap beat and pretending you're whoever, like someone you're not. Like, I felt a yearning to be in one place and with that, spend time with my partner, my family, my dog. So coming out of COVID, it's like, I think as artists and entrepreneurs, it's a great opportunity to say, you know what? I don't think I want to do that gig because it's going to take me away from the sanctuary that is my own space, my own project, or the project that I'm working on with my team. I think that's the most powerful statement that we have to learn is no, because now more than ever, music and art sort of seemingly has no value. Like as a musician, like you look at Spotify, you look at streaming, you look at even like virtual concerts, like performance rights organizations are tapping in to say, hey, if you're doing covers, we got to make sure that cut is coming. So it gets really tricky. So you have to remind yourself, like, what is the greater goal, and how, we're flesh and bone, we're water at the end of the life. How can we use it to the fullest potential? And if we're creating pieces that last beyond our life, I think that's personally the most important. So
I want to hear from Shireen, and before we do, I just want to say to all the participants here, please feel free to put questions in the chat. We've got about 10 minutes left, and we'd love to open it up to questions, so pop those in the chat. And while you're putting those in, I'll let Shireen continue the conversation.
Wow, so many thoughts. Yeah, being able to have this space and this time to reflect. There have been really, really great conversations happening in the world in general, but especially in the theater industry on representation and what kind of stories we should be telling. And so I've really been taking this time. Yes, I've been doing my art and my craft, but really I've been taking this time to connect with creatives and to try and pivot the industry, because what Broadway was okay, but it wasn't great. And we need to start over, because if we come back, I feel like right now everyone's operating out of fear, right? And if we operate out of fear and we start Broadway up again out of fear, we're gonna have Mamma Mia back for another 15 years, and that'll be about it. So I love Mamma Mia, but it's time for new stories to be told. Let's make Broadway what it's meant to be. And so, my tour, the artists in my tour, all the way up to producers, we've been having monthly meetings on how we can return back to tour better. And we've been having conversations on representation and storytelling and what it means. With the Black Lives Matter movement, with the pandemic, with all of these conversations happening now, it must be reflected on the stage, because art should imitate life. And we will not be servicing our audiences if we just resort back to what was. So that's really what I've been taking this time to learn, to listen, to converse, to discuss, so that I can be a part of this new Broadway, this new theater, because it takes everyone. It takes work from everyone. It is a team. It's a team effort. So that's what I've been doing.
So we have a comment and question from Jordania saying, I was in class yesterday workshopping a musical theater song, and my professor said, "You are enough." That really resonated with me. So I want to ask, at what moment did you realize you were enough as a person for the art?
Oh my, that just like, that just, because I think every artist has had a moment like that or multiple moments. Um, I know for me personally, when I was in My Fair Lady on Broadway, I had started to understudy Eliza. And I was in a practice room with my coach, Jen Waldman. If you don't know her, look up her studio. She's amazing. We were working on this material. And she said to me, "You realize, Shireen, you're the first woman of color in history to play Eliza on Broadway or the West End." And you'd think I was like, yes. But I was like, oh my God. Like, it crippled me. It actually crippled my craft. It was terrifying. I didn't want to take on that responsibility. I didn't want any of it. I was just like, I just want to be a really good understudy. And I just want to hit my marks. And once I finally was stepping into the fear, stepping into the nervousness, and realizing, okay, you know, and by the way, the person I was understudying, Laura Benanti, she is just incredible. And if Laura Benanti's out, you know, and they say Shireen Ahmed is going to be doing Eliza tonight, you hear the, oh, like you hear the audience go, oh man, because everyone's going to see Laura, you know? So all of these things, all of the stakes were just so high for me. And eventually I got to a point where I was like, you know what, this isn't in service of the story, Shireen, this is in service of your ego. And so stop, enough. And when I realized I was enough to tell the story, regardless of what I represent, who I am, I'm not Laura, that was like a moment. That was a moment for me.
That's huge. When you step into that and kind of decompartmentalize it, and realize that you have to capture that energy and transfer it, you can kind of remove yourself from that. And it's even, I mean, it must be, I'd imagine it's exciting being an actor because you're literally like, you're like, I am working as this, I'm working this character. I'm functioning on that. And I relate to that. If there are times where I'm on stage and I have to, you know, like Gwen Stefani in Vegas, if I'm on stage, I have to play this character and it's not me. People aren't there to see me. They're not there to see you. They're there to see Eliza, right? They're there to see the character. They're there to see the energy. So I think that's such a huge point of you know, if you're feeling that ego or that fear, it's like, people don't really care. They care, but they don't really care. They're there to be entertained. They're there to be moved. And if they're not, I want to move them. I want to use whatever I can to just spook. I want to spook people. Like if it's unexpected, you know, like that's even more powerful. And if you can sort of look at yourself, look at your talent, look at whatever you do, you know, realizing like, yes, you are enough. If you can step on the stage and not only capture people's attention, but just take them somewhere else, you're a vehicle. So I think part of that comes with manifesting. Part of that comes with taking account of your own value and self-worth and manifesting. I've been telling my students and people that I talked to about like the importance of manifesting, the importance of sitting down with yourself, taking note of what your dreams and aspirations are, how big, doesn't matter, separating yourself from those things and just saying, all right, let's get it. Is it?
I guess I see Douglas says that I was an accounting major, so I will never have the talent you have. Okay, this is so interesting because I'm not sure if you're in accounting right now, but since the pandemic, a lot of entertainers in the industry are out of work. So what are our transferable skills into I have a joke, the muggle world, but so what are our skills that we can bring? The reality is humanity. And if you can bring humanity into your accounting, into being the best personal trainer that you can be in connecting with each other, that is art. That is being creative. Being creative is just connecting the dots. So you don't need to have a talent necessarily. Maybe your talent is just connecting with people. Maybe your talent is just going above and beyond to be in service of.
So we have just a couple minutes left before I hand it over to Jenna to close things out. I want to just give everybody maybe one last quick little word to the group. I know that we've had a couple people asking advice for aspiring artists or emerging artists. I know that's a big question and answer in a last word, but if you want to put out some last piece of advice for our community.
Yeah, I saw a question back, advice about getting your name out in the world in terms of being an actor. I mean, actors act, right? So I think, an important thing is to just keep acting and not worry about the where of it. Is if you want to tell stories as an actor, that you do it whenever you can. I mean, I think that you want to be in as many plays and in the best parts you possibly can play, because you'll just get better. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. So, and I would, not worry about the agents and those things will, those are trickier parts of the business. And, but if you get really good at auditioning and really good at acting, the rest, becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead,
Please.
Darius. Go ahead.
Yeah, that just ties it in for me as well. Ian, it's just keep doing. If it quote unquote stinks, that's okay. Somebody's gonna love it. For them, that might be their favorite record or favorite piece of work. Just keep doing it. And if nobody asks you to do it, well, just keep doing it, because it doesn't matter. The message it'll find the listener.
And one thing about criticism, and this is probably opening a big thing for a closing statement, I always try to tell myself, you have to remember, if someone criticizes your work, it's something that you made. It wasn't there before you made it. So you saw something that no one else saw, and you created it. And if they have an observation or analyze it or whatever, it didn't exist before you. So you always have that, no matter if it's good criticism or bad.
I love that. I could talk about criticism forever, but something Bart told me, which has always stuck with me, is that it was our opening night, and he said, just remember the good critics are just as bad for you as the bad critics. So stay on your own road, stay focused, get really good at what you do, what you bring, zero in on that and do it and show up and do the work. It's as simple as that. Agents, manager, that kind of thing, they'll all come later if they even do. But what you do is important, and someone out there needs it.
Well, I think that is a great way to end our presentation and panel discussion today. Darius, Ian, Shireen, I can't thank you three enough for joining us. Your performances and comments were so memorable. And Sydney, thank you for serving as today's moderator and leading the panel discussion. Darius, you mentioned wanting to move people in your performance, and I can honestly tell you, all four of you, you moved me today to, I had some chills. I was on the verge of tears at some point in time. You're truly all artists and very passionate about what you do, and spoke to the students and even the alumni and just general Tiger fans. So thank you all. To all of our attendees today, please make sure you connect and follow our artists that have joined us this afternoon. Their information is on your screen now. I hope everyone else enjoyed this session and got something out of it today. It was very insightful and I think helpful to some of our students. I'd like to take a moment and remind our attendees that at Towson University is still raising money for the TU Student Emergency and Food Insecurity Fund. Every gift counts and makes a difference, no matter the size. And these gifts go directly to support our students who are experiencing challenges in their lives, especially right now with remote learning. The funds help provide our students with internet access, laptops, supplies, web cameras, and other technology-related needs that they need right now. You can make a gift today by clicking the link that's in the comment box on your screen. We hope you can join us for some of our other upcoming events. Next week on February 23rd, in celebration of Black History Month, we are hosting a webinar discussion on unsung heroes in TU's Black history. And then on February 25th, the Maryland Science Center and alumnus Mark Potter is joining us for a virtual presentation to share how you can use organizations in your community and educational experiences to parallel classroom work. Then on March 9th, a panel of TU alumni, that's women, will be sharing their experiences as women in leadership positions. You can register and learn more about all of these events and more at alumni.towson.edu/events. Make sure you follow the TU Alumni Association on all of our social media channels and on Tiger Connect, our alumni community. These details are now posted in your window for you to see. Thank you again for joining us, and we truly hope to see you again next time.